especially for commercial loans, not so much for residential loans, but certainly for commercial loans, that if you pay off the loan early, you get charged a penalty for doing so. And you say, why would they charge you a penalty for paying off the loan early? Well, think about it like this. If you're the lender, you've gone through all this brain damage yourself as the lender to make a person a loan, and the expectation was that loan is going to be for 10, 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden the borrower comes in after a couple of years and says, hey, I want to sell the property and pay off the loan. You're like, wait a second, we went through all this trouble to make you this loan. We were expecting interest payments for the next 10, 15 years. You're paying it off after 2 years. They're not going to be thrilled, and they impose what's called a prepayment penalty, which is typically a percentage of the outstanding mortgage balance. So it's another way they make money. Yes, sir.
So when people do that, like what you just explained, does that get shown to like other mortgage companies, and they might put you at a higher interest rate because they know you sell houses quicker and things like that?
It could invariably impact that, yes. The other thing, or other way that they can make money, in addition to the upfront fees, the interest rate, and the prepayment penalties, the fourth way is they can make money off of what are called servicing fees. Servicing fees is basically nothing more than they're charging you a fee just to collect your payment and process and post your payment. You're saying, what? Yes, okay, because they can. But it's a hidden cost. I mean, here's the thing that I guess, I know it's hard for you to get excited about this at 9, something at night, but here's the thing. There are about 4 different ways the lender can make money off of you as the borrower. The only one of those 4 ways you probably even thought about before tonight was what? The interest rate. Okay? Armed with the knowledge and understanding of those other 3 ways that they make money off of you allows you to do a better job of differentiating between what is the true effective cost of borrowing relative from one lender to another, because you could have one lender that charges you a prepayment penalty, one that doesn't. One that charges you a servicing fee, one that doesn't. One that charges you big upfront charges, one that doesn't. But you could also have, here's the ultimate situation that happens quite often is you have a lender that their stated interest rate is super cheap. 3%, let's say. All the other lenders in town, it's like 5%. But this lender is advertising a 3% interest rate. But they have these massive upfront fees, massive prepayment penalties, and massive servicing fees that make the effective cost of borrowing not 3%, but maybe like something like 7%. Okay, you follow? That's where people get taken advantage of constantly by lenders, okay? Because of not understanding those very fundamental sort of things. Okay, moving back. Okay, so we got our financing cost. And then from all of this, we need to be able to calculate our monthly mortgage payment. Okay, so let's just go back over here. Now, calculating our monthly mortgage payment, we're going to go back to 12 payments per year. Okay, so 12 payments. Okay, our loan amount, $144,000. Our interest rate, 7.5%. Our term, 30 shift in or 360 months. And hopefully, when we solve for the payment, we're going to get that $1,000 roughly. So let's see what we get. 12 payments per year. 104. 7.5. And 30 years. Solve for payment. Yes. Okay, 1,000. 006.87. Okay. So that is our mortgage payment. Okay. Everybody matching up? Yes? Okay. All right. We're getting there. Okay. Everybody good with all of that? Okay. Okay, now let's move over to the right-hand side of the spreadsheet. Okay. Now, here, the very first one, we're just going to steal from the left-hand side the sales price after the holding period. So we're just pulling that number directly over from the left-hand side, 208, 669, 33. Okay? Everybody good with that? No calculations, just pulling that over from the left-hand side. All right, now, once again, just a couple of little minor terminology things. And it should be intuitively obvious, but just making sure you're clear. What is a holding period?
The duration of like how long you've had the house?
Yeah, how long you own it, how long you've kept it, okay? But, and then the key to sort of take note of here, your holding period can be very different than obviously the loan period. You know, you get a 30-year mortgage, but it doesn't mean that you're going to hold that property for 30 years. Okay? You, in this case, you're only holding it for 5 years, and then you're selling it, paying off that mortgage, and moving on. Okay? Make sense? Okay. All right. So your holding period, or the sale price after the holding period, the 208, 669, 33. Okay? From that, we subtract out the sales commission, which we've already calculated on the left-hand side. We just carry it over here, 12,520.16. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Then we just do simple subtraction to get our net sales receipts. Of 196, 149.17. Okay? So that didn't require any real effort other than subtraction. Good with that? All right. Now this next one is going to require a little bit of work, but not too much. Okay? We've got to get how much of the loan do we still owe after 5 years? Is basically what this is asking for. It's asking for what's the loan repayment. So in other words, we bought the property 5 years ago. We sold it after 5 years. We originally had a mortgage of $144,000. We've been making payments of a little over $1,000 a month for 60 months. How much do we still owe on that mortgage after that 5 years? That's what they're asking for. Is everybody with me on that? Yes or no? Okay, so here's how we're going to do that with the calculator. Okay. So 12 payments per year. Okay, we have the original mortgage of $144,000. And we'll put that in once again as a negative. All right. And in this case, our interest rate was 7.5%, correct?
Yep.
And our monthly payment was what? $6.87, and we're going to make that a payment. Okay, and then the amount of time that we held that loan was for 60 months or 5 years, so we can put it in as 60 in. And what do you think we're going to solve for? Future value. In other words, this is going to be what's remaining on the loan after that particular point in time. So let's just see. All right, so 144,000 negative present value, 7.5%, 60 months, and then the 10687 payment solve for future value. Are we matching? Yep. 136, 249, 02, right? Or 03. Okay. So that's just simply saying that is the amount we have left remaining on the loan at the end of that 5 years. Okay? Are we cool with that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now, So that's the amount that we still owe on the loan at 5 years that we have to pay back to the lender, okay? Whenever we sell that property at the end of 5 years. In other words, we don't get to keep that money, we have to give it back to the lender. Now, one question that you might want to ponder here just for a second is, no, actually we don't want to ponder that. Okay, just going to leave it at that. If we ponder that, that'll confuse things more. Okay, so with this, we're going to subtract out the loan repayment. Of 136, 249, whatever it is in this case, I think we'll round it off as 11, either way. Okay, we subtract that out, and what we end up with to the cash to them is 59,906 pennies, okay, at the time of sale. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? In other words, whenever they sell it, all we're saying is, when they sell the property at the end of that 5-year period, they sell it to somebody new for $208,000. They pay the sales commission of the $12,000, and then they pay off the loan that they had of the $136,000. That leaves them with a profit of basically 60 grand. Does that make sense, everybody? Yes or no? Okay. Now, the final piece of this is then to say, what is the return on investment? And in this case, where do we get this 39,800 from? It's on the sheet here. It says return on investment of 39,800.
The down payment and mall and the financing.
Yes. Excellent. A for the day. All right. So we had a down payment of $36,000, and we had these financing costs of $3,800. Both of those were out-of-pocket expenses at the time that we got the loan. Is that clear to everybody? So add those two together, that's where you get, excuse me, 39,800 as our initial investment. Okay, so here's the way to sort of look at this just for a second. Basically, we're spending $39,800 up front, and we're making mortgage payments along the way, but at the end of all of this, we're basically getting 60 grand back. So we're trying to figure out how much of a rate of return is that. Does that make sense? Yes?
Why is it listed as return on investment?
Because that is the amount, the 39,800 is the amount that we put in of our own money.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the return on that investment. What the percentage return is on that investment. We were going to calculate, we were not there yet. We still have to do the calculation.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Okay,
That's up.
all right. So in this case, what we're going to do, go ahead and, so we've got our 39,800. And then our 59,906. And then this is going to be over 60 months. And we also, let's have our payments of one. Oh, I think actually, hold on here. Let's double check. I think this is the way he did it. 53. And 39. Just make sure I don't screw this up for you. Okay, 5 years. Yep, that's what they did. Okay, they did it completely on an annual basis, just looking at it as cash inflow, cash outflow. So, what you're going to do, one payment per year, and you are simply going to put in 39,800 as your cash outflow or initial investment. You're looking at a 5-year holding period. or 5N, and you're looking at the payout at the end of $59,906 as the future value. And here, what we're doing is we're solving for what was the interest rate or the rate of return for that investment, okay? And so when we do that, you should get the 8.52%. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? So all we're saying is, this is the amount we initially bought the house, or that we had to put into the house in terms of a down payment and the financing cost. We had that money in that house for 5 years. At the end, we sold it for what we sold it for. This was the profit that we got out of the house. And so over that holding period, that equates to basically an 8.5% rate of return on an annualized basis. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, any questions about that? Okay. Now,
I'm sorry, could you go back and you?
okay, so any questions on anything we've covered up to this point? We still got a few more little things, and then we'll be done here in a little while. Okay? We will get out of here, I guarantee you, before 9:45. Okay, so hang with me a little while longer. All right. So any questions up to this point?
I have one question about every time we use the years,
Yep.
and we do a 5, like let's say 5 and then 5 shift in.
Right.
So if we do the 1.
So that shift is irrelevant then, under those circumstances. You can just put it as 5N, it's 1 payment per year.
Okay, and if it's 12, I have to do it with a.
If you're putting it in yearly, that's converting it to months.
And then I would have to put the shift.
Yes,
right?
yes, in order to convert it to months. Yep. Okay. Okay, so is there any of this that is hazy to you, doesn't make sense, you're struggling with, you feel completely unease, or not uncomfortable about, or are you feeling reasonably okay
Feeling good so far.
so far? Okay. Because we do have a lot of calculations to go, and as I've said, you only have to endure me for 2 more class sessions, then you've got your midterm. So, think of it like that. If you can get through, you've gotten through 1/3 of what you have to deal with me, okay? So if you made it through the night, make it through 2 more nights of me, and you'll be good to go, yeah.
So we don't have like projects or anything?
No.
Just
Midterm and a final. Midterm 50%, final 50%. Very straightforward.
So in terms of that, like, are we gonna have to solve, are we gonna be given certain steps and then all we're just gonna just find them?
It's exactly what you're gonna do, okay? So all the calculations we did tonight, you need to be able to do this, the exact same thing. Yes. Okay. But now, keep in mind, you're not gonna have notes, you're not gonna use your computer, you're gonna use your calculator. And so you're gonna have to obviously know how to do what is being asked. So like, let's just go through a couple of practice issues, okay? Just to see if you are keeping up with what we're doing. All right, so let me give you what might be a stereotypical question, okay? Question might be, assume you've got a mortgage of $550,000 with monthly payments and an interest rate of 6% with a term of 15 years. Calculate the monthly mortgage payment. Okay, so see if you can do it. Okay.
On the exam, are we gonna have to write out all those steps, or are we just gonna give an answer?
All I need is your answer.
All right.
It's gonna be right or it's gonna be wrong.
All right.
Okay? All right, so just out of curiosity, how many of you got it right? Okay, those of you that didn't get it right, what did you do wrong? Make sure, see, what did I say? Remember what I said at the very beginning? I said, always make sure that you set the number of compounding periods as the very first thing you do. Okay? Because the previous problem we just worked was 1 payment per year. This one is 12. Exactly. Yeah? Okay, now, let's take this. How much total interest do we pay on this loan over the 15-year term? Okay? Same problem, but how much total interest do we pay? Okay? Now I know what or not most of you, but I'm sure that some of you are going to make the most basic mistake. You're not going to give me the interest, you're going to give me the total amount. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to take the 46, 41, 46, 41, 21, and you're initially going to multiply it by 180 months. That's going to give you the total amount of 835, 418, 25, or 26 rounded. That is the total amount of payments that you made, but we're asking for the interest, so you got to subtract out from that the original loan amount of the $550,000. And then what you're left with whoops. Oh, shoot. Okay, 835, 418, 26 minus 550. 285, 418, 26.
So you know how number one is negative, so you don't necessarily.
In this particular case, all we're really concerned about is what is the actual dollar amount. And so the positive negative thing is not really that important. It's just It's what is the dollar amount? Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Yes or no? But you see how you, once again, your initial reaction was probably to give me the 835,000. But what you're solving for would just be the interest portion. Okay? All right? Now, if I were, this is a simple one, what would be the principal portion that was repaid? No, the principal portion.
550.
See, I thought it was a simple question. No, the principal portion would just be the 550. Okay? The total amount paid, principal and interest, would be the 835. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay? Let's do like a old cap rating kind of question. All right? So assume, I don't know why, but almost all of my questions start out with the word assume. But assume that a rental property charges $1,500 per month in rent. And has a 10% vacancy and collection loss. And $5,000 a year in other income. Total operating expenses are 30% of effective gross income. Okay, and assume a cap rate of 7%. Calculate the value of this property.
Is that 5,000 gonna be, what is it, and 5,000 in other income? Does that mean that, you mean by like they're losing the 5,000, right?
No, it's going to be an additional $5,000 in other income that they're going to be generating. In other words,
Profit.
extra money.
Profit.
Yeah. Okay. So there's the wording. Now, think about going back to the original notes. Look at the setup.
And that would be the effective gross income of the total income, including the additional 5,000?
Yes, it would be the effective gross income, not the potential gross income, but the effective.
Question is that 10% vacancy mean that they're going to be losing that part of that 5,000 initial income as well?
It's just going to be, the vacancy collection loss will be based off the potential gross income. This is all you really need to populate this. Once you get this populated, stick in that net operating income number over here, divide by the 0.07, that's going to give you the value. Okay? So let's do it together. Okay? So our potential gross income is going to be what? 1,500 times 12. So 1,500, oops, 1,500 times 12 would be 18,000. Okay. Vacancy and collection losses are going to be 10% of that. So 10% of 18,000 would be 1,800. Okay. Other income is $5,000 for the year. Okay. I could be tricky and say a certain dollar amount per month. But in this case, I went ahead and just gave it to you as a yearly amount. All right. So 5,000. Okay, so now we do the math on that. 18,000 minus 1,800 plus 5,000 equals 21,200. Okay, for effective gross income. Everybody with me? Okay, then we say, assume that operating expenses are 30% of effective gross income. So now we just simply take, multiply 21,200 times 30%, 6,360. And that's going to give us our net operating income. So 21,200 minus 6,360. Oops.
Could you just multiply that by 70%?
Yes, you could.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep it slow. All right. What was it? It was 14,840. Yep. Okay. So now the 14,840 goes up here. As your, excuse me, as your income. So you're going to take that, divide by 0.07, or 7%. That tells us that the value of this, $212,000 would be the answer. Yes, sir.
So the only question I have is, you know, the way it's worded with the 5,000 a year in additional income.
Yep.
When you say that, you know, does that mean that the vacancy are not taking a toll in the 5,000 a year?
In this particular case, no.
Okay. So we would be clarified if it was.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a great question, because you could, you clearly make the argument that the other income is occupant dependent.
Because that's how I had calculated it.
Right. Yeah, because actually, to take that point just to kind of to flesh it out just a few seconds. You know, I mentioned that one of the sources of income could be parking revenue.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have any tenants, you're not going to have any parking revenue.
Exactly.
But there are many other sources of other income, like, for example, one of the believe it or not, strange ones that you may have, allowing you to put a cell tower on your property. They will pay you, you know, a set dollar amount, you know, for putting a cell tower on your property. Well, that's obviously completely independent of whether you have tenants or you don't have tenants. Same sort of thing if you, maybe they allow you to put a big billboard on the outside of your property advertising somebody else for something else. That's, once again, not dependent on how many tenants you have. But yet things like laundry revenue, vending machines, parking fees, that sort of thing, yes, all of that would be, you know, dependent upon the occupancy level. Great question. Okay, does everybody understand what we did, why we did, how we did? Yes?
Just to clarify, if it's not like specified 5,000 per year, if it says monthly, you would have to go a step further.
Yeah, and multiply by 12. Yeah. I mean, but you can begin to see the method of the madness of what we've done, you know, in terms of how this all begins to kind of fit together, because this is the sort of scenario that you'll be faced with, you know, as a potential investor, you know, of going out there and saying, I'm gonna collect all this information, and it's gonna tell me this is my income, I know what my rate of return is, this is how much I should value it at. Now, in practice, you're going to probably complicate this up a bit more with a few other nuances and that sort of thing, but for the most part, this is the fundamental kind of way you approach it, okay? Thoughts, questions, observations? Okay? Anything else you need to do a quick example of? And we'll be done, I promise. Anything else you feel like we need to go over? Okay. All right, so for next class period, well, first of all, those of you that borrowed calculators from me, give those back. Okay? Second thing, make sure you do bring your calculators and potentially bring your laptops next week so we can use Excel. Probably would not be a bad idea for you to read ahead and look at the next, couple of chapters that we've got on the list, so that, if you're having a little bit of a challenge with some of this, to be able to kind of hopefully pregame a little bit and understand what you're going to be faced with. And outside of that, I think we did reasonably well. All right, we'll see you then next week. I'm sorry, the what?
Can't be sent pre-shows.
You would just space that.
Did anybody try to pull up any of the spreadsheets?
Yeah, I did.
They work okay?
It works fine.
Okay. I wonder. I don't know. Oh, probably, yeah, Microsoft Excel. Well, you can get it through, actually, how much is it for Microsoft Excel here on campus? You can buy it through. It's free. Should be free.
On like 5 or 3 or 5 different, it's like you can have it on your laptop and on your iPad, for example.
What do you do? Is it like through the bookstore or?
When you download, they'll ask for a student email.
Okay.
And when you sign up, when you use a student email, you use their nova.edu. That's the way.
So $1,500 a month is the rent, times 12 would be $18,000. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry? No, I took roll. Well, what's your last name? Yeah, I'll find it. Yeah.
It's not over there?
Yeah, no, I got you.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it's in your car.
I hope so too.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Have a good night.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's it.
And this is amazing. Congratulations for this new technology.